Good morning again. My name is Todd Mitchell. If anybody would have asked me, I would quickly tell them that I am not a minister. When I think of someone who ministers, I always picture someone in the pulpit. My granddad was a minister, and occasionally when he was in revival or when he was the interim pastor in the church, we'd go see him preach. Honestly, out of all the times I've heard him, I don't recall one specific sermon. However, and this is a big however, he ministered to us each time we were around him. He rarely shared his opinion and advice unless he was asked. Most often he was quiet, but the security I felt when I was with him and the sense of wisdom he possessed was loud and clear. When he talked, and especially when he prayed, which he did at every meal, people listened. He was a true man of God. Not only was this apparent with him when he delivered a formal sermon, it was apparent in everything he did. He was a minister in and out of the pulpit. I think that if anyone would have asked my dad, he would have quickly told them that he was a deacon, but he was a minister. However, in learning a little bit about Laity Sunday and how the laity is made up of non-ordained ministers, I think I would have been mistaken. He would have too. I learned a lot about being a Christian man from my dad. It would only be much later in my life that I learned just how much that he taught me. I don't remember him ever sitting me down for a proper lesson on religion. It was just mainly in watching him in his daily life. He was never boastful about the things he did around the house or the church. He would see something that needed to be done and simply do it. From vacuuming and doing dishes around the house, which was traditionally not a man thing to do, to keeping the yard well kept, he was always busy. Paying the bills on time, saving for a rainy day, filling out our church envelopes each week for us to turn in, helping to fix our vehicles when they needed it. He was our go-to guy. He was very slow to anger, and he would rarely make any complaint about anything. This, however, did not include molasses. He was very quick to point out when they weren't, and I quote, fitting to eat. I heard a poem recently that so reminded me of my dad, and it went on thinking about my talk today and how perfectly it could be related to our God and all the things he does for us. The poem's title is Those Winter Sundays, and it goes like this. Sundays, too, my father got up early and put on his clothes in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands and ached from the labor of the weekday weather, made banked fires blaze, and no one ever thanked him. I'd wait to hear the cold splintering and breaking, and when the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress. The poem goes on to say how indifferently he spoke to his father. And the poem described how the father even polished his shoes on a Sunday morning as well. In case you were wondering, my dad did that on a Saturday night, and when we were old enough, he had taught us to polish our own shoes, and he fully expected us to do it. Our Heavenly Father is so much like that father in the poem. He does what is needed as head of the house and even more. He doesn't do tasks for accolades. Instead, he does them because they need doing. And he would never expect anything in return. He loves unconditionally. There's nothing that we could do to make him turn his back on us. Mary Ann told me that she would like our speakers from Laity Sunday to share a bit of their story as it relates to faith in 3 questions. 1, how has God been a part of my story and my faith journey? I suppose most importantly by allowing me to be raised in a Christian home. He blessed me beyond measure with some of the most strong men in my life who I could watch and look up to as an example of what it truly means to be a man of God. These men didn't have to they did not thrive on drama and worry. They looked at the good things in life and good things in people instead of going through life finding fault. They held on tightly during the tough times, having a faith that would all work out well. I admired this, and I try to remember that faith and fear take the same amount of energy and they produce the same amount of results. The second question, how is it that God led me to be a part of First Christian? Whenever I went through tough times in my life and I chose not to attend church, things just didn't seem right. I came to First Christian because going to church just seemed like the right thing to do. Originally, I started attending here because Jim Patton, who was an old college buddy, invited me. I kept coming because the folks to who I'm speaking to today, and especially my choir family. You guys made me feel very welcomed, and I love the choir family. more than they'll ever know. 3, how do you see First Christian as a congregation being part of God's story? As a congregation and as individuals, we need to be a good example to others. And to remember what I heard Jay say a long time ago. We're not a perfect church, and we don't need to pretend to be. This is one thing that attracted me to this church, and I think we need to remember that. And don't be afraid to tell others as we invite them to church. We need to be doing all the things in life that need to be doing for the right reasons, not for praise. We need to be there both physically and spiritually for our families, our neighbors, and our co-workers. We don't need to be caught fussing about things. Yep, there are a lot of things that we would like to change, people that we would like to change, but fussing and complaining about them will never benefit anyone. We need to be slow to anger and to be patient. Patient with ourselves because things are not going to happen in our time, and patient with others. We need to visibly show and share the joy in our life. I think God has a wonderful sense of humor, and He wants us to enjoy life and laugh more often. We need to interact with others, yes, strangers, and even try to be a bright spot in their day. One smile word from us might be just what they needed to hear. I personally am not known to be a quiet man, and it is not abnormal when someone would ask me, "Are you always in this mood, this good mood? What's with that?" If I play the conversation just right, somewhere in the conversation I can take the opportunity to invite them to church. Happened most recently last Saturday at the 5-star gas station at Lono. I'll wrap up my talk in saying the things that I challenge myself with every day. First, be grateful and know how to recognize a good day. And most importantly, realizing and remembering each day is a good day. Thank God for our particular set of problems. That's right. Thank God for our particular set of problems, because I know if we take the focus off of ourselves and focus on others, we will quickly find someone who has it much worse. Don't try to change anyone, because 1, it's not really our job, and 2, we won't be successful. Don't try to accomplish things with perfection, not even in one day. It's just not going to be possible. This one's one I struggle with. Remember, when we make a mistake, and we will, that simply by asking Him, we will be forgiven. I'm pretty sure God doesn't like ourselves beating ourselves up over things that we did, especially after He has forgiven us. Above all and lastly, count our blessings. Give credit where credit's due. Pausing occasionally to give a quick shout out or prayer to God and tell Him you appreciate Him and all the things He does for us. Thank you.